Alright guys, can't imagine there's not 15 million videos on there on how to field strip and take apart a bolt on an AR15 platform or M16 platform weapon system, but I'm going to add mine to the mix just because that's kind of what I'm doing today. First thing first, always make sure the weapon system is empty and that there's no ammunition present when you're doing this stuff. Alright, on an AR platform you're going to have two pins, front and back. These can typically be pushed out with your fingers. And we're going to take it apart and look at it in two different groups. Well, first you have your lower receiver. Now this is a match grade trigger. I can't remember who makes this one. It's not a Timony trigger. It's a can't remember who makes that trigger. Very nice trigger. So you'd think I'd remember who made it. Anyway, that's all you really need to do to get to clean the bottom of it. You can blow dust out of there, so on and so forth, clean it up. If you need to take your buffer spring and buffer tube out, set this to the side, try not to spill stuff. There's a little pin right here, detent. Take a pen, anything else, press it down. Buffer spring will roll forward, pull it the whole way out, that way you can clean your buffer tube, buffer spring. But that's like it for the lower receiver. But we're going to move on to the upper receiver because that's the important part. That's the part that truly gets massively dirty. Teach you how to take this all apart, pull it all apart, that way next time you're at a gun store, if you don't know anything about it, you can piss off the gun store owner by taking his guns apart. Don't do that. The hand guards, very easy. This cup right here, I shouldn't say very easy, they can be easy. This cup moves forward and backwards right here. You pull it down, the hand guards come off, you can get to the front of the gun. I'm not going to do that because it truly is a real pain in the ass. Sometimes you can put a pen or something under there and pry underneath it and get them off. Bolt carrier, bolt group, how that works is you're going to press on your charging handle and pull your bolt back. Bolt slides out, charging handle slides out. Now, the inside is about as empty as you're going to get it. Down inside, I like turned on here. Down inside the chamber, where locking lugs go in right here. This is a real good place to try and clean, pipe cleaners, whatever you have. Tell you what works real good on it. Oven cleaner. Put some oven clean down there, let it get good and, you know, do what oven cleaner does, and then clean it out, blow it out, get all that garbage out of there. But here's a big thing that everybody needs to know how to take apart, which is the bolt carrier and the bolt. This part's carrier, this is the bolt. First thing you're going to have in there is your firing pin, retaining pin. It's going to be this pin right there. You can use just about anything to pull it out, pocket knife, pen, anything you can get underneath there to get it and pull it up out. Pull that pin out, turn it over, give it a little tap, firing pin falls out. This is where you're going to get a lot of grime. If you are having light primer strikes or not hitting it at all, one of the problems can be a buildup of carbon right here that's keeping the firing pin from moving all the way forward. So that's one of the good places to keep cleaned up. This is something, if you're not going to clean the gun in any other way after you shoot it, you probably ought to do that. From there, here you have what's called a firing pin, retaining pin. Push back on the bolt, turn this 90 degrees, and it'll fall out. No spring pressure, nothing to worry about, nothing's going to jump out and get you. Again, not a bad idea to keep that, you know, lubricated, a drop of oil or so, even a little bit of oil on your fingers and rub it. Now you can pull your bolt out. Okay, now that our bolt's out, now you can get in, clean on the gas system. If this is a true gas gun, this is not a gas piston system, so you can clean down in there. That's going to be a lot of grime and carbonation on build up right there. You can clean down in the inside of the bolt carrier. Now, the bolt itself, which that's what this is you can take it down just a little bit further, in that you can take out the extractor. The extractor is the part that extracts the bullet from the chamber. The ejector is, on this system, it's truly the same thing. There's not really a true ejector in the AR platform weapon systems, but it is called the extractor because it extracts the magazine. Actually, if you want to get technical, this little plunger right here is truly, that is the ejector. This clamp right here is the extractor. But if you need to take that apart to clean it, which you don't have to all the time, but if you put a little bit of downward pressure here on this, you know, this moves and rotates right here. I don't know if you can see that. But if you just put a little downward pressure and push on that pin, you'll see it move out. There's not a massive amount of pressure on there, however there is a little, so make sure you get it good and captured. You can pull that pin out with your fingers, and then your ejector extractor just pops off. You need to be careful of that little spring right there. It typically is captured pretty well on there, but sometimes it's not, so you need to make sure you don't lose it. That's a pain in the ass to try and replace if you don't have one. It's not something you can, you know, make out of a, you know, pen, whatever. But typically your firing pin will run down in that channel like so, protrude through the front of the bolt when it's hit. But that's it. That is the extent of it. You can clean it up real good, the whole 9 yards. Put it back together. Just do it in the exact reverse order. Put your extractor back in there, push down on it, line up that hole, put that pin back in there. It needs to be centered up, as it's going, that part is going to protrude into the bolt, so you know that's why it's made to be beyond flush fit. When you put your bolt back into bolt carrier, you're going to see there's a groove here on the side. It's not on this side. This is the ejection side of the bolt carrier. It's important that your extractor goes to the ejection side. You can put it in backwards, and if that happens, you're going to have some severe problems. The gun's not going to run. It's going to do all kinds of double feeds on every shot. So make sure your extractor is up and sort of kind of is to the right and sort of kind of up a little bit, so as that hole right there is lined up. See the hole? Alright, now we're going to put our firing pin retaining pin, I'm sorry, our God, I lost track of what that thing's called. We're going to put this thing back in there. It is not the firing pin, I can't remember, locking bolt, rotating, I don't know, don't remember what it's called. It's going to go back in there. Doesn't matter top, bottom, left or right, it just needs to go back in long ways. Then it's going to rotate 90 degrees. Once you get it rotated 90 degrees, we're going to pull the bolt forward so it cams up. Drop the firing pin in, put your firing pin retaining pin back in. I apparently have spent way too long out of the Army, and I cannot remember what that pin's name is. I'll know, and I'll annotate it after I look it up. Anyway, so that's it for putting your bolt back together. Good light skim coat of oil goes a long way with these, which I didn't oil this while I had it out, so I'm going to pull it back apart. Things to watch while you're taking your bolt and bolt carrier apart. A, don't lose anything. Now I carry a complete, or mostly a complete rebuild system. In the pistol grip of my gun, I can rebuild the entire bolt group as long as I have the major parts. I carry new extractor and new extractor and all the pins and all that in a little Ziploc bag inside the pistol grip. Carry spare firing pin and everything in there. Not a bad idea if you know you're going to truly use your gun for a you know, if it's a combat weapon system and you intend to fight with it. If you're just doing this to say you have an AR, then not really a need to. A little drop of oil right there go a long way. Keeps the spring and that part lubricated. not, you don't have to goop it up. Honestly, for most guns, too much oil is a bad thing. Just a little skim coat. Again, a little skim coat oil on the bolt. Put a couple drops on there, rub it around. Now, one thing I want to mention, on your gas guns, there are 3 grooves in these gas rings. There's one, there's 2, and there's the other one. In a worst case scenario, if all of them line up, your gun will not operate. So what the Army teaches us is to make sure they are honestly at 33 degrees from each other. I don't know if you actually have to go that far and get that involved in it, but I typically do. Make sure they are a good ways away. If all 3 of them little holes would ever line up, the gun's not going to cycle and not going to operate. Again, we're going to make sure that our extractor is up and to the right a little bit. We're going to line up our hole right there. We're going to draw up our, whatever that cam lock thing is. God, I can't remember the name of that. It sucks. Got to rotate it 90 degrees. Which normally isn't that big of a deal. There we go. Rotate it 90 degrees so it's long ways across this way. Pull her up. Take our firing pin. Now, I just a little bit of oil off my fingers on the firing pin. I don't grease down my firing pin. The bolt carrier the same way, should have a little bit of a skim coat on it. Again, what's on your fingers is usually enough. You need to add just maybe a little bit more, enough that you see it change color a little bit. Get the bolt carrier not slimy, just a little bit, enough of a coat on it that'll help lubricate it, help it slide a little bit. And that's it for getting our bolt carrier back together. So now we got our bolt carrier back together. Take our upper receiver after we've cleaned it and put our charging handle back in it. Just enough that it drops in. There's a little set of grooves that it has to drop in. You'll see that these deals here have to, little flares have to drop down in there. I see people oil the bottom of that charging handle deal. If you really feel the need, maybe put a little skim coat off your fingers on top of the charging handle. I wouldn't slime that up too much. I never have. I've never had it really cause an issue or a problem. Like I said, you might put a little skim coat on it with your fingers. I've never really had a problem with it running. But after you put your charging handle in there, you're going to just move it up enough that you can get the top of this gas tube down in the bolt, and get the bolt group kind of moving together. Close it. Make sure it's all the way forward and locked. From there, just going to simply take your lower receiver, clean out whatever you got to clean out in there, make sure your pins are pulled open. Set your upper receiver on your lower receiver and push the pins back in. Yeah, this was truly designed to be one of the simplest weapon systems in the world to field strip and clean, and it is. It's very simple. So that's it in a nutshell on how to clean one, or take it down to clean it. Any questions or comments? I appreciate them. Like I said, I'm sure there's 16 gazillion videos out there on how to do this. I just, because I'm doing it and this gun needed to come out and get a little bit of oil on it, because new man cave here, we've got a humidity issue I'm going to have to deal with. Guns in the gun safe are starting to pit up a little bit on me, get a little bit, not rusty, but got some surface rust going on. Haven't been in that gun safe in a couple, 3 weeks, and didn't notice it, but went to get a gun out today, shotgun out today, and sure found it. But like I said, questions, comments, I appreciate them. that is pretty much the way the Army, or at least the way the Army did 20 years ago, teach to take it down. I'm not going to say things haven't changed. Can't see another way to do it, though. And this works. It's worked for a long time. But appreciate you guys watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and tell your friends and your neighbors and 15 people you don't know and all that stuff. Appreciate it. Have a good day.